Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alex Erm's Clips. 2 years have passed, and I'm still trying to make sense of it all. I'm writing this not just because people keep asking me for updates, but also because putting it into words helps me process what happened. Maybe if I see it all laid out, I'll finally believe it. I'm a guy in my mid-40s. My now ex-wife is a couple of years younger. We were married for 33 years, together since the late 90s, got married in our early 20s. We built a life, raised 3 kids. 2 of them are adults now, and there's only a few more years of co-parenting left with our youngest. For most of our marriage, I thought we were solid. I genuinely believed we were in it for life. But something started to shift around 2017. Naturally, we both focused on our child, and I figured the emotional distance between my wife and me was just part of the sacrifice. I truly believed our bond was strong enough to weather the storm. Turns out I was wrong. Looking back, the first red flag should have been in 2008. That was the year Facebook exploded in popularity. Everyone was reconnecting with old friends and exes, me included. I had nearly 2,000 friends at one point. My wife sent a friend request to her ex-boyfriend, someone she dated when she was 17, and he was nearly 23. This was about a year before she met me. According to her, he ghosted her back then, probably cheated too. Well, they started chatting again, then meeting, and before I knew it, they were hooking up 2 to 3 times a week for about 6 or 7 months. This was late 2008 through early 2009. They used her mom's spare bedroom during the day. While I was working my ass off to support the family, she was sneaking around with this guy. At the time, she was working on her bachelor's degree. I covered everything financially so she could focus on her studies and our kids. We had 3 little ones then. I remember noticing she was distant, but I chalked it up to the recession. I just lost my job in the 2008 financial crash, and I assumed she was disappointed or stressed. I blamed myself, but in hindsight, she was distant because she was cheating. The affair eventually fizzled. He was in a relationship too, married with kids, and apparently wanted her to leave me. She didn't. They stopped for a while, but kept talking off and on between 2011 and 2013. Then, in the summer of 2013, they met again. This time, she had sex with him in his car, while there were 2 kids' car seats in the back. Classy, right? Then nothing, at least that I know of, until 2017. That spring, he reached out again, saying he was getting divorced and wanted to see where she was at. That was a lie. He wasn't getting divorced. I later spoke with his wife, well, now his ex, and she confirmed that. I guess he was just testing the waters to see if my wife was an option before he jumped ship. Of course, she took the bait. From 2017 to 2020, they met up maybe 2 to 5 times a year. He lived 2 hours away, but back in the day, he was a truck driver and passed through our town regularly, which explained how they managed so many secret rendezvous back in 2008 to 9. During this newer phase, my wife would go on weekend trips with friends, and I didn't think twice about it. I trusted her. I'd take a trip with my buddies once or twice a year, too. I figured it was normal. While she was gone, I'd make the weekends special for the kids, take them out to dinner, have movie nights, stay up late. I thought we were just balancing our lives. Then came 2021. She started the year with a trip in January, then another in mid-March, then one more at the end of March, and on April 1st, April Fool's Day, she came home and told me she wanted a divorce. I love you, she said, but I'm not in love with you anymore. She listed off all the things wrong with me, told me she hadn't been happy in a long time. Same script I've seen 100 times on Reddit, like cheaters all downloaded the same damn manual. I was blindsided, devastated. But instead of getting angry, I turned inward, thought maybe she was right. I went into overdrive trying to fix myself. Within 10 days, I had a therapist. That's how desperate I was. I called everyone until someone had an opening. She said she needed space, so she started going away every other weekend in April, May, and June. I believed her, thought she was off somewhere thinking things through. In reality, those were the weekends the affair partner didn't have his kids, and she was going straight to his place. I kept asking what she wanted. Told her if she really wanted out, I'd sign the divorce papers. She had them printed and kept them in her purse, half sticking out so I'd see them every time she left the house. It felt deliberate. Look, I told her one day, trying to stay calm, if you want a divorce, I won't stop you. I just don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me. But she kept stringing me along. A crumb here, a hope there, and I played the fool. Total doormat. Then came July. Out of nowhere, she said she wanted to try again. I think we should give our marriage another chance, she said. But behind my back, she was still visiting him. In mid-July 2021, I ran an ultramarathon. I was exhausted but hopeful. Part of me imagined she might show up at the finish line to surprise me, like in the movies. She didn't. I came home the next day, sore and completely wiped. She wasn't even there. It was our kids who took care of me, bought groceries, cooked, brought me ice packs. That evening, she finally came home. I didn't know it at the time, but she'd spent the night at his place. A few weeks later, in early August, I took our two youngest to visit my sister for the weekend. She said she wanted to spend some time with our oldest, but lied to both of us. She had the AP pick her up, stayed overnight at his, then drove back the next morning and acted like nothing happened. Later, she and our oldest drove out to meet us like it was all normal. In mid-August, she skipped a visit because AP had his own trip planned. But then, at the end of the month, she landed in the hospital for a couple nights due to a health issue. Of course, I stepped up, brought her everything she needed, even extras she hadn't thought of. She didn't say thank you. Instead, she got upset when I pulled something from her purse and saw, yep, the divorce papers, still there. I hadn't seen those since July. A few days later, she tricked her mom into taking a trip with her to visit an aunt, who, conveniently, lives in the same city as AP. She snuck out both nights to go sleep with him. Early September, just days after our anniversary, she went to see him again. When she came home on the 12th, I finally confronted her. "Where were you?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "I need to tell you something." What followed was just the tip of the iceberg, what they call trickle truth on Reddit. I asked her directly, "Who do you want to be with, him or me?" She said, "You. I want to be with you." But she still kept messaging him on Snapchat. She told me she needed time to end it properly, in person. I was naive enough to believe her. On September 25th, they met halfway in a town an hour away. I thought she was going to end it. Instead, they went for a drive, made out, and she even offered to get a hotel room. He declined. She ended up, well, let's just say they didn't need a room. I doubt they didn't sleep together, but even if they didn't, it doesn't really matter anymore. She finally sent a message ending it on October 19th. I remember that date vividly. Every day from D-Day, September 12th. Until then, felt like something inside me was dying. Slowly. I joined Reddit that November. My first post was before I'd even spoken to AP's wife. The second one came after I did and got the full picture. The rest of 2021, I was a complete mess. Desperate to fix things. We saw 3 marriage counselors. The first one? Useless. She hadn't even confessed to cheating yet. So, naturally, everyone, including me, assumed the blame lay with me. The next 2 weren't much better. They tried the usual shared responsibility angle. That didn't sit well with me. I was showing up shattered, trying to fix what she broke, and getting told I needed to own my part in it. Yeah, I wasn't perfect. I worked a lot, spent time with friends and family, did about 1/3 of the household chores. I also lost my temper sometimes, especially between 2017 and 2020 when I could feel her pulling away. I'd raise my voice when she'd deflect or dismiss me saying, "Everything's fine." It wasn't fine. I wasn't okay, and I didn't know how to handle it. Therapy later helped me understand. I go into fight mode when I feel out of control. It's not right, but it's real. What hurt most was that she never once brought up problems. Not a word. Just carried on an affair like our marriage was disposable. I didn't need a therapist telling me to take equal responsibility. My wife had already set fire to the whole damn thing on her own. Anyway, I'll stop here. Writing this out is like reopening a wound. The next part will cover the aftermath, how I finally started to climb out of that wreckage. D-Day was September 12th, 2021. By late October, I started telling people, my parents, my siblings. The truth finally came out. At first, my brother seemed supportive. He and my sister-in-law got together after she cheated on her ex-husband to be with him back in 2010 or 2011. I wasn't 100% sure it was an affair, but rumors were there. I asked my brother if I could talk to her about it, and he agreed. She confirmed it had been an affair and gave me some perspective on what my ex might have been thinking or feeling. Christmas 2021 was brutal. My birthday is also in December, and I cried when I got gifts from my kids. Felt like no one cared about me. New Year's hit hard too. As we watched fireworks from the balcony, I remembered how exactly a year before, my wife stood next to me filming a Snapchat for her affair partner. January 2022 started slowly, as it does with my academic schedule. Mid-January, we were having dinner at my parents' place, my brother, his wife, their kids, and mine. It was about 4 months after D-Day, and I was deep in undiagnosed PTSD. My mom told a nonsensical story, and I got irritated. I started an argument. I fully own that. I wasn't loud, but visibly annoyed. My younger brother suddenly stood up and yelled at me. I got up, grabbed my coat, but turned around and tried to confront him. He pushed me out the front door. I didn't resist. We're both big guys, and I didn't want to fight. I walked home to cool off and called my mom later that evening to apologize. My brother texted saying sorry and wanted to talk. I said I accepted, but he should call. He never did. For months, I barely heard from anyone in my family. In March, my dad had a bad fall on a hiking trip, broken ribs and a spinal fracture. My mom called late that night, and I insisted on driving an hour to pick her up. On the way home, she asked how I was. I told her the truth. I was deeply depressed, even had self-harming thoughts. That week, I got an STD test because my ex admitted to having unprotected sex, including anal, with her AP. I told my mom how humiliating it felt. Her response? Well, that's what people do when they're having an affair. No compassion, just excuses. Then at the end of March, my brother emailed my wife, claiming I was abusive, urging her to leave me, and saying he'd support her and the kids. She waited over a week to tell me. I made her reply, denying everything. He sent another email in mid-May doubling down, and she replied again weeks later. In June, he sent a third email, tripling down on his accusations, calling me controlling and claiming I was just seeking attention. She finally shut him down firmly, saying if anyone was being abused, it was me. She showed me all of this, and I didn't reply to him. I just wanted her to tell the truth. I know how this might sound, but it's garbage. Yes, I was a jerk to my brother when we were kids. Wedgies, dumb stuff, once even backhanded him in the groin. I'm 6 years older, and when I was 12 to 14 and he was 6 to 8, I could be rough. I've owed him an apology for that for a long time. But this isn't about childhood. It's about him turning on me now, when I needed support the most. I'm not excusing how I treated my brother growing up, but it was typical older brother stuff from the late 80s, early 90s. In late April, I had a heated phone call with my mom. She claimed I was always rude, made excuses for my wife, and even said, "If your father spoke about me like you talk about your wife, I'd divorce him on the spot." I wasn't trashing my wife. I was just telling her what had happened. Then she flipped and asked why I was still married. She dismissed my mental health too, saying I wasn't depressed or had PTSD because no psychologist had diagnosed me. That night, I sent her a long email saying I didn't want to keep having toxic conversations. I laid out 3 rules. 1, support both me and my wife, no matter if we divorce or reconcile. 2, stop excusing my wife's behavior. She didn't make a mistake, she made a choice. And 3, respect that I'm dealing with serious trauma and depression. My wife and I were still trying to reconcile at the time. We even took a 5-day trip to Southern Europe. On night 2, a bit buzzed, she let it slip that she had met her affair partner twice in 2018. Not once, like she originally claimed. I was crushed and booked a separate room that night. She promised to give me a full timeline when we got back. A few days later, she admitted to 5 meetings that year, and even drew hearts in her planner on those days. I nearly threw up. At this point, I was sure the affair had ended in September 2021, but I felt like I was always back at square one. I hated it, but I checked her phone often. We both had access, shared pins and locations, but I felt more like her parole officer than her husband. By June, she was still dragging her feet. She hadn't replaced the fold-out couch at her mom's house, the one she and the AP used, despite our kids sleeping on it during visits. She claimed she kept forgetting. I started to believe she was great at compartmentalizing, just storing everything away in her head. She was also going to therapy only once every 3 to 4 weeks, and her therapist was about to take 2 months off. I told her it wasn't nearly enough. Meanwhile, I had finally started EMDR therapy, and it helped. I'd been on antidepressants since June 2021. She, on the other hand, didn't want to talk about the affair. She wanted to sweep it under the rug and wait for me to get over it. But I couldn't do that. I needed to see change, effort, growth. She wasn't stepping up. I asked her to move out at the end of June 2022. She did, stayed at her mom's, who had a spare room. I still left the house a few days a month so she could be with the kids, and she'd stop by regularly for meals and pickups. Not long after, she got a phone call from my mom, the same mom who hadn't replied to my email. My wife didn't answer, so my mom called her mother instead. She told her she loved and supported my wife and to reach out if she needed anything. They barely had a relationship, just saw each other at dinner once a year. It felt like betrayal. Then, in July 2022, my dad called. He started off kind, but when I brought up how hurt I was by my brother, he said, "You do realize you're talking about my son, right?" My heart sank. The conversation ended shortly after that. At this point, I've come to believe my ex shows signs of borderline personality disorder. My mom checks nearly every box for a covert narcissist. And my younger brother, classic golden child. He's an alcoholic, couldn't hold a job, and was into pills in his teens. My mom had to drag him out of drug dens, something I never knew about until years later because I'd already moved out. Despite all that, I still supported him. My parents even bought half of his and my sister-in-law's house, asking me and my sister if we were okay with it. Of course, I said yes. They were raising 4 kids in a cramped apartment. But I've come to see how much my brother's always been handed things, while I've had to hold it all together on my own. I suspect he's been jealous of me for years, and when I was at my lowest, he took the chance to kick me down. He called me in November after I flipped him off for waving at me like nothing had happened. When he called, I calmly asked if he thought he owed me an apology for betraying me. He laughed. That was the only time we've spoken since January 2022. I haven't seen my mom since March 2022, my dad since April, and my brother since January. In November, I sent my parents a detailed email explaining why I was hurt and saying I didn't want contact unless they could sincerely apologize. They never responded. Instead, they started showing up at my gym, one I had invited them to join for years, which they always refused. I just switched gyms. I sent a follow-up email in March 2023. The reply? A 2-sentence, "We love you." That's it. A few weeks ago, I made a Facebook post after a man around my age took his own life. It wasn't a cry for help. I was sharing my experience with depression and encouraging others to talk about it. That evening, my dad called for the first time in 9 months. He said he was worried and wanted to take me to a mental health facility. I told him I didn't believe he really cared. He'd brushed me off when I'd told him the same thing a year earlier. His silence for months said more than his words. He got offended, said I was calling him a liar. I told him I now judge people by their actions, not words. When I asked what he thought about my emails, he called them nonsense. That hurt more than anything. I ended the call and haven't heard from him since. If you're wondering whether I was abusive, know this. When my wife asked for a divorce in April 2021, I calmly agreed. I didn't yell, I cried. When D-Day hit that September and she said she might go to her affair partner, I offered to change her car's tires since it was icy. I wasn't controlling. I was heartbroken. She had a 13-year on and off affair under my nose. How controlling could I really have been? Now, we're selling the house. I've resigned my tenured position at the university and accepted a new job in Southern Europe. My middle child will likely move with me. My oldest is renting with friends. My youngest has the option to come, and I've promised all my kids I'll always be one flight away. I'll have a spare bedroom, cover their flights, and rent a bigger place if needed. I'm excited. I grew up abroad, and I think I'm done with Sweden for a while. I'm also training for the Stockholm Marathon. It's in 1 month. I ran the marathon last year in 4 hours, 23 minutes, which was slow for me. I used to clock in at 3:32, but I'm not in that shape anymore. Still, I'm aiming to break 4 hours this time. Just 3:59 would make me happy. People have asked about my ex and where things stand. She's working on herself now, but it took moving out for reality to hit her, and by then it was too late. I'm indifferent toward her. I wish her the best as the mother of my kids, but that's all. She begged for another chance for months, but I shut it down every time unless it involved the children. She finally gave up on that idea late last year. We co-parent amicably. When I travel, long weekends or week-long trips, she stays with the kids at the house. I don't ask about her life, and I don't want to hear it. The kids and our mutual friends respect that boundary. I don't know or care what the affair partner or his ex are up to. I never got an apology from him. I called him once to make it clear. If he ever inserts himself into my life again, he'll regret it. I didn't yell or threaten, but he got the message. I could tell he was scared, and that was enough. I tried dating apps, but I'm not ready. I've got too much emotional baggage, and I'm still fighting depression and daily intrusive thoughts. I am getting better, though. I've always been popular with Southern European women. Maybe it's the Viking look, but I'm not chasing anything. If it happens, it'll happen naturally. My kids know the rough outline of what happened. I didn't want to dump all the details on them or turn them against their mom. I told them they can ask me anything when they're ready. They were all in shock, too. As for my ex, of course, she asked for another chance. But by then, I had nothing left to give. I've described our marriage as a dead tree. No leaves in spring. That's how I felt. Nothing. Just done. She's single now, as far as I know. I doubt she'll ever speak to the affair partner again. And honestly, that guy's a mess. 3 years older than me, can't hold a job, an alcoholic, total loser. If she did try to have a real relationship with him, it would almost be funny. Karma in action. As for my family, I've gone no contact with my parents. That means no birthdays, weddings, or family functions in over a year. None of the extended family either, since they're all tied to my parents. My sister stayed out of it, but we talk less and less. I think she feels stuck in the middle. I'm trying to make peace with burning that bridge. Secretly, I hope for an apology from my parents, but I've let go of my brother. I supported him for years, defended him when people trashed him, and this is how he repaid me. My ex and I only talk about the kids now. She tried bringing up other things at first, but I shut it down. She finally understood. Honestly, I think she thought she could cheat forever without consequence. The affair wasn't about the other guy. It was about escaping her real life, pretending she was still 17 on those weekends away. But that's not my circus anymore. So, dear friends, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Thanks for your support.